Okay, everybody, welcome to the SASE NRB 2020 Starting College Off Right with Professional Development, right? Um, you might be wondering, why did I choose this one? They were doing cool stuff at the other one. No, college is a time where you have fun, you meet new friends, but also at the same time, this is when you really start to figure out, your career, right? What you want to do after college, right? Like, what am I going to do? Your first 21 years of your life has been mostly guided, right? That you go to middle school, you go to high school, you go to, and for most people, hopefully, I would assume they go get higher education, right? And a lot of people don't know what to do after they graduate, right? It's all a mystery. Like, am I getting a job? Like, what kind of job? What kind of career do I want? I don't want to be working 9 to 5 every single day for the rest of my life, right? And so this is where we come in, right? We are, right, please load. There, there we go. Okay. We are the Society of Asian Scientists and Engineers, right? We are a professional organization dedicated to, the professional development, the career development, and social and self-development of people, more specifically, college-age students. Um, although the name does say Society of Asian, right? We are, Asian welcoming, but also we are also welcome to all other types of people, right? It's included, but not limited to. Um, but of course, no, we do have this majority of our members are in fact Asian, Southeast Asian, East Asian, right, South Asian, right? We have a lot of those people, and we all get together and we figure out like careers, figure out our professional skills and social skills. Our chapter, our RPI chapter, was founded in 2014, but the national organization was founded in 2007, right? So on the grand scheme of things, this organization is still a fairly new to the whole collegiate market, right? But no, don't mistake that as no, we're new, we don't know what we're doing. No, we have been working nationally and also here at RPI for many years now, and we've had a lot of development and a lot of changes. So, we're getting there. We're getting pretty good, right? Right. So now, okay, I know what you guys are, right? I know what your name stands for, but what do you guys do, right? Because I don't know. Are you like, no, there's a group of friends. Do you just give each other interview tips, and that's it, right? Not quite. We're a mix of a lot of things, right? First and foremost, we are a group of friends, right? All of us, this is still an organization you join during college time, right? Everyone gets to know each other. Everyone gets, close, and we have a lot of events together where we spend time, be creative, and be social. Right? These are our 20s and late teens. These are, one would say the most important years of our life, and why not make new experiences, right? So socially, we do a lot of different things. We have cookouts, we have potlucks, we have secret Santas, we have a lot of online gatherings too. Especially with everything going on. We play games, we watch movies. We talk smack about each other. Right? We're a bunch of buddies. But on the other hand, we do know when to put the fun and games away and get to work. We help each other and help others in the community with professional development, career goals, career aspiration, and career skills. Networking, we're all fairly bright people. Some exceptions like myself, maybe not, right? But for the most part, right, most of us are generally very smart people. We help each other with academics. We help each other with work. We help each other with general advice. We go to conferences. Like if you look on the slide I'm sharing, um, on the left hand side, that is our national conference, right? We have our own career fair, and a lot of big name companies come. I think you can see a few of them, very separate from RPI, right? So our organization, we do things on a national scale, on a regional scale. We're in the Northeast, and we intermingle with other chapters from other schools. As I mentioned, this is a national organization, right? There's over 100 chapters worldwide, nationwide, with plans to expand even more. Right. So I'm gonna give the mic off to our wonderful team, the wonderful e-board, right? So for whoever is here of the e-board, please go ahead and introduce yourselves.
Yeah, I can start. So, yeah, hey everyone, my name's Kadar. I'm currently a rising sophomore majoring in biomedical engineering, and I'm from California near the Bay Area. And right now I'm the events director for SASE.
I can go next. So, hi everyone. My name is Tracy, and I am the VP for SASE this year. I'm currently a junior dual majoring in industrial and systems engineering and math, and I'm from Brooklyn, New York.
Hey everyone, I'm Vin. I'm a major in computer systems engineer. I'm a sophomore, and I am the treasurer.
Hello, I'm Nathan Sean. I'm one of the two mentor co-heads. I'm here because Kevin couldn't make it today. I'm an aerospace major sophomore.
I guess I'll go next. Hi, I'm Eric. I'm secretary for SACE. I'm a rising sophomore. I'm a mechanical engineering major, and I'm also doing a minor in econ and math. Yeah, that's fun.
Okay, so today, what are we going to do today? What are we doing? Sometimes I don't even know, right? But no, today we have a very wonderful schedule planned out, right? We're going to have 3 speakers come and talk about 3 different things, right? And what are these 3 things? Well, you might ask. No wonder, thank you for asking, right? If you look on the screen, what I'm sharing, we have 3 main topics. We're talking about resumes, we're talking about interviews, and we're talking about self-marketing, right? These 3 things have been recognized as the quintessential steps for any new beginning professional, right? If you want to see change, you want to see results of getting a job, right? You got to start with these 3. Of course, these are not all the steps to be a professional. There's many other things, right? But these 3 right here are what we've considered and what we've collected data and understand, and through our experiences, these are what will make the best professional going forward, right? So with the resumes, right, we're gonna have our speaker come in and talk about what you're gonna be writing, how you're writing it, right, how to format your resume. Very scary, and also talking about cover letters as well. And what is the cover letter? What you should write for that. Interviews, right? Where it's going to be, what to expect in the interview. What are they going to ask you? Right? I don't know. Like how and why to prepare, right? How should you prepare? If there's questions you should be focusing on, right? And why should you prepare, right? Like what's the reason? Like, no, I can just wing it. I've been winging everything in my life. I just walk out here, boom, I'm here, right? But no, we're going to figure that out, right? And the next topic is self-marketing. What is self-marketing, right? And how can I market myself, right? I don't know. Like download Tinder, you market yourself over there. I don't know, Facebook Marketplace, right? How do you do it? How does it work, right? So let's get started into that. Oh, okay. So we're introducing our first speaker. Hello, everyone. My name is Wesley Chow. I am a class of 2021 member. That means I am a senior. I'm studying a dual major in information technology and web science with economics. So that's a fun thing, right? I am a former e-board member. I used to be a part of the e-board for this chapter, and now I have left this local chapter and I've joined the national organization and helping them find out stuff. Okay, so let's talk self-marketing. What does it mean, right? What does it have inside? What is self-marketing? So self-marketing, I broke it down into 3 main parts, right? And these 3 parts break up the entirety of what self-marketing means, right? There is your digital presence, your workplace presence, and your pitch, right? And I say pitch because there's a lot of different ways you can call it. So let's start with the first one, digital presence. What does that mean? What is digital presence? Digital presence it stands for everything you are online, right? As technology grows, as technology gets better and better every year, right? More information of you is online, and more of your personality, or at least an aspect of your personality, is also online, right? So we're going to be talking about how you can have have a presence, have like space that's yours, and call it this is mine, right? On the internet, right? Workplace presence is about how much space, not physical space, but the presence, and when you're talking in groups, working in teams, and the whole dynamic of the company or wherever you're working, have your presence be felt, right? Do people recognize it? Do people understand you, right? How do you get your goals and aspirations through in the workplace, right? And how do people like, oh yeah, I know James. Like, James is cool. Like, he's from HR. I know James. Yeah, that's your presence. People know you. And the last one is we're going to talk about is pitch, right? People call this elevator pitch. People call this hallway pitch, hallway meeting, right? It's basically all right. You got the presence, you got both in online and in place, but what now? How do I talk to someone, right? How do I market myself directly to another person, right? And then we're going to talk to you like this is what you should say, this is how you should act, this is what you should know, right? Right. So that's what self-marketing is, right? So before that, does anyone have any questions about those three terms I just went? All right. So now you go, okay, I understand what self-marketing is. I know what it is now. Thank you, Wesley. You talked enough, right? But how do I work on it? How do I improve it? How do I get better at it? How do I even start with self-marketing? Let's start with the digital workspace first, right? Digital. How do I get a presence on digital? The first thing you should do, right, as any professional in the modern age, I presume everyone here has either one, a cell phone, and two, a laptop, right? Or else you would not be able to be watching this or listening to this. So, right, everyone should have a device where you can access the internet. There is a very wonderful website called LinkedIn, and I'm gonna show you my profile in a hot second, right? But LinkedIn is essentially the Facebook for networking, getting to know people, getting to connect with people, right? But professionally, right? No, so you don't upload 2 pictures of your dog unless that's your job, right? You don't upload, your hey, I'm on the beach in Cancun, what's up, right? You don't upload those pictures there unless, again, that's your job, right? But there you go. You share very professional things. You connect with people professionally. You get to know recruiters. You get to know alumni. You get to, and as you become the older generation, you get to know the people below you and give them support. So LinkedIn is let's move over there right now. I'm going to swap to that screen. Appreciate it. So this is LinkedIn, right? You're looking at this is pretty much like a jank, Facebook. It doesn't look that much different. No, as I said, no. There's differences in what you do and what you achieve, and the general norms. Like you don't expect to be posting this type of stuff, Facebook stuff here, right? So you create a profile, right, and this is how people can connect with you. People can find you, and you have a digital presence on the internet, right? So you upload a profile picture of you, so people know who you are, and you go down, right, and then you start filling out some stuff, some stuff professionally relevant to you, right? You talk about your experience, where you have worked. Here you can see I've worked at a number of places, and you talk about what was my title, right? What's the name of the company? How long did I work there for? Where was this company? And then you have a little bullet points or paragraph detailing what did you do at the job, right? No, because people you got to be more specific, right? If you say like, oh, I worked in Facebook, like, oh, what you did? You code stuff? Were you like Zucky's right hand man, right? No, I was the janitor, right? You got to be specific, or else people are going to get confused. So you got to write down that type of stuff, and you go down education. This is where there's a point, right? If you want to connect with people, right? You say, I'm coming from RPI. Hopefully, everyone here is coming from RPI. Fingers crossed. I'm not gonna say for certain, right? Yeah, I come from RPI, and this is what I did during RPI. This is what my major was, right? so that when you connect with people and you add people as friends or connections in this case, they're like, oh, this guy's from RPI. Yeah, we graduated the same year. Oh, I don't know this dude. Like, let me message him, right? And then you keep going down to other experiences, right? You have skills, right? Like, oh, I'm really skilled at this, right? Like, s'mores, I can make the best s'mores. Everyone's gonna endorse me for this. S'mores, no one can beat me, right? Stuff like that. Accomplishments, courses you take in, honors and awards, languages, what organizations you're into or in, right? Obviously, I'm part of SASE, and we don't need to read the rest of it. Of course, you can stalk me on LinkedIn if you want, right? But as I said, LinkedIn is very, very vital to your digital presence, right? So I encourage you, right, if you do not have a LinkedIn profile yet, please make one as soon as possible, right? It doesn't matter how empty it is. It doesn't matter if, like, I have no experience, Wes. What am I going to do? I've never had a job before, right? Like, like, I don't have any, like, really any good skills. And I've never coded before, never done that. And I'm a CS major, right? So I don't have any skills, but that's completely fine, right? Everyone starts somewhere, right? And it's okay if you're barren as long as you have that account, your name is linked to it, and you start adding your friends and the people you work with in your projects, right? You're going to start building that connections. You're going to start building that network, and then you're going to start building that stronger digital presence, right? So if you don't have LinkedIn, please get some now, right? Yes, I just saw the chat. If you do want to connect, please share your little URL, right? You can make this custom and up here. Share it in the chat afterwards, or if you want to do it now, I don't really care. I can stop you. Right. But before I move on, any questions about LinkedIn?
I have a question.
Okay. One second. I just saw something in the chat that came up first for me. Was should you sign up for LinkedIn with your RPI email or your personal email? I'm gonna say use your personal email, right? Because once you graduate RPI, you lose your RPI email, right? You don't keep it forever, right? And that you don't want that to happen when you're trying to sign in. Like, oh, this email doesn't exist anymore, right? You use your personal email to create the account, but on the account, right? So for my case, contact info, please don't dox me, right? You can change your email to like a different email than the one you signed up with, right? So sign up, create the account with your personal, and then later on in the details, add your RPI email on there, right? And don't add your personal email unless it's like if it's something like Sparkly Unicorns 1234, right? Then maybe don't do that, right? Unless it's your job, right? But if it's something like Wesley Chow 123, that's a little bit fun, right? There was another question. The guy who was speaking before, I didn't catch your name. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So I saw how you have a dual major in business and IT. So it's like, how do you indicate that, like, sort of, if you're, I mean, most of the time, do you come from an IT background or from like a business background as sort of your core, and like, which is how do you indicate which one is like your main focus and which one is sort of like the add-on, right? That you're just having as a supplement, right, to your other major.
Right. No, I understand. So how usually you would do it is you have this is more internal designations for the RPI admin, right? But you have a primary major and then you have a secondary major. It's listed on your account in RPI, right? It's listed out like that. So when you get your diploma, when you graduate, fingers crossed everyone here does, right? Your diploma will say your primary major first, then your secondary. In cases like this, that's exactly what you do, right? You put your primary first, then your secondary, right? Not a lot of people new into this know that's how it works, but once you've seen enough, once people seen enough examples, they get the idea, right? They get the sense like, okay, the first one's a primary, second one's secondary. It sounds like really stupid to say it out loud, right? But thank you for asking, right? Because it wasn't clear to me when I first started this, right? So thank you for asking. I know there was a few more. Does that answer your question, or was there more?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. Can someone read me the questions because I don't have the chat pulled up?
Yeah, there's a question. how in-depth or brief should you be with your skills and experiences?
How in-depth should you be with your skills and experiences? Okay. With your experiences, you should try to be as in-depth as you can without writing like a 10-page paper, right? You're just trying to tell people, this is roughly what I did, right? This is a very general outline. And if you want to know more, come call me, right? So let's talk more, right? You're not supposed to tell your whole life story, but at the same time, you're not supposed to put job, bullet point, I did this and done, right? Not that brief, right? I did job. No, that doesn't work out, right? Go in depth, but not too in depth, right? Later on, we're gonna have another presenter come up and talk about resumes, right? And this is where that applies really well. How much should you put? Not too much, not too little. So I'm gonna put a pin in this right now and come back. Let someone else go take that later, right? How far back should we go in our experiences? So as freshmen, right? I'm gonna say a fair majority of you don't have experiences that much, right? That are relevant to what you want to do when you graduate, right? Right? If you're an aerospace engineer, I doubt you work for NASA already. If you are, congrats, right? But I doubt you have, right? So in that case, having a little bit of high school stuff is fine. I'm not talking like freshman year high school. I'm talking about senior year, junior year. If you have something that's relevant-ish, right? Like, oh, I was student council, student government member, right? Or oh, I was president of the drama club, right? That stuff is fine. You can put that on, but only for your first year, right? Because after your first year, you're gonna hopefully get some experience, take some courses, do some research. If you join research, right, and you're gonna start having a little bit more relevant stuff to put, right? Again, this leads into resume, so I'm not gonna go too far into that, right? But hopefully that answers your question, right? Seeing how that's the last written question, I'm gonna keep moving. Okay. So finishing off digital presence. Also, your Facebook, your Instagram, your Twitter, your Snapchat, your MySpace. I don't know, judge, right? Don't go around posting, stuff that's kind of sus. I'm not gonna lie, right? Because recruiters and company people, and also other people, if they're really trying to figure out what kind of person you are, they are gonna look through that, right? So don't be sus with what you post, right? I'm not saying what it is, right? But hopefully everyone here is at that point in their life where they understand what you should be posting and what you should not be posting. Like I'm gonna leave it to you guys to figure out that logic, right? I'm not gonna go too far with that. But yeah, right. Digital presence is fairly quite straightforward, right? Getting to know people online, making those connections, right? Don't post weird stuff. If you do want to take the extra step, you can, like make a website, code up your own website, have your own domain name, create your own logo, right? And have your own business card, right? You can take that extra step, right? But then again, as I said, I'm only covering the very beginnings of this, right? So definitely start with LinkedIn. And then as you understand what direction you want to take with your presence online, then you can start working towards that, right? So let's move on to the next part, physical, the workplace presence, right? All right, so how do you get people to know you? There is this statistic, which I heard from one of the VPs of P&G at a SASE conference, right? It's that if you don't make a drive, you don't show that you're good enough, right? If you don't show stuff and you don't get promoted in the first 3 years at P&G, you'll never make it above a certain level in the company, right? You have, in order to show your presence, you have to show drive, you have to show ambition. You have to show that you have goals and you're willing to work hard for those goals, right? You might be thinking like, I reach my goals all the time, right? You see my grades, perfect, right? You see my stuff, perfect, right? I reach my goals all the time. It's right. It's not about just reaching a goal. It's about making sure people know that you work to reach your goal and that you did reach it, right? There's a million people that reach their goals, right? But how many of them do you know, right? You have to make it so that people see that you're making effort. People know that you're putting the time and the focus into reaching that goal, right? This could go from anywhere like asking questions, to a mentor, someone at the workplace who's already been there, right? Or someone who's already taking the class, you go show up the TA office hours and yes, hey, can you show me how to do this? I don't really know, man. Like this is really confusing. And then they're like, okay, yeah, sure, let me help you. They will then, if you keep coming, you keep asking questions, you keep being motivated, and you keep showing ambition, they're going to remember you, right? So that's partially the key to having a strong physical presence in the workplace is by showing ambition, showing that you care, showing that you have drive, right? Although sometimes it's not easy, right? I know some people have difficulty being so outward with that, right? But definitely do try your best to get yourself noticed, right? Yeah, I'm not saying you show up to work in like a rainbow clown costume and like get all the attention. That's not the attention you want. The attention you want is like I know my man Jonathan over there, right? He does his work. He stays all the way to the end of the day, doing his work. He responds to my emails with like really good stuff. And he shows up at the meetings. He asks questions. I know John, right? And I'm his manager. So although John and Tiffany over there, they might have done the same things, right? At the end of the day, but John made the impression. I'm gonna give the promotion to John instead of Tiffany, right? It's not to say Tiffany doesn't deserve it. It's just that when you're comparing two people, you're gonna pick the one that deserves it more, right? That you personally know, right? Not the person like I barely seen her ask questions, but that's how you develop physical presence. Right, in the workplace, and also in the classroom, right? By being there, by being present, and by being supportive of others, and by being attentive and having your own ambitions, right? Were there any questions with that one? No questions. Okay, perfect then. If I do see something pop up, I guess someone's going to yell at me. But no, the last part of self-marketing is the pitch, the elevator pitch. What am I going to say? Elevator pitch. Right? Like, you got all the stuff. You're there. How am I supposed to walk up to this guy and say, "Hey, I really want to be part of your department. I don't know how to say it. Right? But what am I going to do? You're going to stand there, be awkward, look like a loser? Hopefully not. Hopefully not. Right? That's not the goal. But hopefully, what does happen is you go up to the guy and say a few words, right? You're in the elevator, you're going up. He's on the 50th floor, you're on the 52nd. Like, oh, you know what? I have about 30 seconds, 1 minute. Just say something really quick to him, right? Or her. 2020, right? Or anywhere in between. But you say like what you would say. You say something really profound and wonderful. Like the guy's like, okay, yeah, you know what? I'll see you around. Catch me for a meeting in a little bit. Right. So what do you say to this person, right? So with an elevator pitch, with any pitch in general, right, what you want to do is you want to be confident, right? Know who you are, right? That's very important, right? The first step is know who you are, right? What do you bring to the table? What skills do you have, right? What knowledge do you have? What have you done, right? Know yourself, right? That's the number one key, right? Know who you are and what you can bring to the table, right? Because if you don't really know, like some of you might be saying, like, what the hell is that talking about? Know who I am? Yeah, I know who I am. My name is Steve. I live in New Jersey, right? No, I have two brothers, right? No, not like that, right? But no, like, oh, I know how to design a 3D model with this software, and I'm like pretty really good at it. No, I know how to code in this language. I know, I don't know what's a sciencey thing. Like I know all the chemicals. Like that's not as impressive, right? But like I know how to mix the chemicals to make gummy bears. That's a little bit more impressive. Let's go with that, right? But know what skills you have and know what you can bring to the table. Oh, there is a Steve. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Steve. I love you. I love you. But yeah, right. Know what you can offer. Know what you can bring to the table, and what you can offer. Right. Know yourself. The second thing is you don't have a lot of time. I'm not trying to sit here and listen to your life story. Right. Be quick, clean, be concise, and get to the point. Right. So, as I said, you're in the elevator. You're on the 20th floor. You're going up to 50. You don't got a lot of time, right? You waste your time. You blew your shot. That's it, right? You got to take a shot, but it got to be a clean shot, clean and quick, right? And then what you would say, you try to tell them, offer like, hey, this is who I am. Right? Introduce yourself. Explain why you're talking to him. Right? Like you're David from I don't know, like from this company, right? And like I'm like, oh, I really really want to get into whatever your company does because, and then you go into explain the reason why, right? Because you graduated in this. This is David too, I think, right? But, like, oh, like I graduated in this major, or I've been working on the side, working this, or I just want to switch departments over to this thing, right? I'm really good because then you list out your skills, right? It's like I know the coding language that only your company uses. I studied that. I learned that. That's me. That's me. All right. I learned it, and that's why I'm a good fit. Because you're hiring other people, they probably don't know this language. I know because you're the only guys that use it, right? So, you know what I mean, right? Sell yourself, right? Explain to the guy like, this is why I have skills. This is why you should want me, or you should come out and get coffee with me, right? And then afterwards, you follow up with you follow up with a follow up, right? Like, yeah, here's my business card. Can we get like coffee sometime? We can talk about this a little more, right? And there you go, right? So let me repeat that, right? That's introduction, introduce yourself, explain why you're talking to the person, right? And talk, and then you go on to, this is why I'm talking to you. This is what I have to offer to you, right? It does not necessarily always have to be an offer or something, right? But no, you can offer like, these are my skills I bring to the table. I talk about your skills. Talk about your background, and then the follow-up ending, right? Those few steps, that's how you do a pitch, right? So I can give you an example right here, right? So say, Steven, I need your help with this.
Yes.
Right, I just need you to just respond to me when I say stuff, right? So I don't really need you that much, right? But I'll be like, oh, hey, Steven, my name's Wesley. I am a senior RPS studying a dual in IT and economics, and I know that you work for this company, right? This company XYZ, and like, dude, like this is a really good company when it comes to consulting, right? Because consulting is really what I'm good at, right? I have a balance of backgrounds in technology. I have a certification in project management, right? And I have done 2 internships, one at ABCD and EFG company, right, in the past. And it was like, I don't say that word, right? As you see, I'm on the fly, so don't judge me, right? But I worked at these 2 companies before in internships, and I really wanted to get into project management consulting. I was hoping I could pick your brain and learn a little more about the process at your company. Could we go get coffee or something? Here's my card. And I pass it over to Steven. Steven looks at the card and says, "You're a swell young man." You're like, okay, sure, yeah, let's go for lunch at like 11 tomorrow. Right? Turns out, Steven, I didn't need you, right? But no,
Yeah, exactly.
thank you for the help, right? That's how you do a pitch, right? Obviously, I was a little, it could have been better, right? But no, as I said, this is on the fly, right? But normally you have a little bit more time, hopefully like a few more seconds of time to think about what you're going to say, right? But as I said before, these things happen literally anywhere, right? You could be on the walk, on the way to work, be in the elevator, and the guy just walked in, right? Sometimes you don't have a lot of time to think about what you're going to say, right? So which is why it's important that you practice and to really know yourself, right? For me, I was just coming up with a fake persona, so like, that's why it was a little hard. But know yourself so that you don't panic and like, what am I going to say? What am I going to say? What about myself? What skills do I have? Know yourself. Know what you want, right, from the person. Like, what am I looking to get out of this? I'm looking to get coffee with this dude. I'm hoping to get a referral from this dude, right? Know what you want, know yourself, and be confident, right? Because even getting to that point where you're already there it takes a lot of confidence, takes a lot of, gusto to get up there, right? So already be proud of yourself. You're already there, right? And this is just the last step in the whole race, right? You already got your digital, you already got your physical presence, right? Now you're actually there. You made it. Talk to the person, right? Treat them like a human. Treat them like a person, right? So don't look down to them. Don't talk to them like, oh, I'm better than you, or something like that, right? Show some love, right? So that's basically a pitch, right? Any questions?
Hey Wes, I got a quick question.
Hit me.
All right. So, I mean, you say like you're talking about a pitch in general, but do you recommend, writing down something if you know who you're going to talk to in advance, or do you want it to be sort of like a structured thing, but not really,
Mhm.
written out?
Right. No, I feel that. Right. By written out, I hope you don't intend to like you show up to the guy, right? You've been waiting in line at the career fair, and you have a little like index card, and like you're just reading it like a script. Not like that, right? But a elevator pitch is not something you should always have in your side pocket, right? Maybe what you could have is on your phone or a little post-it saying like, oh, this is his name is Roger. Okay, Roger from Harvard, right? Roger, and that's it. That's something like that you could write down, right? But generally, an elevator pitch isn't something you need written down. It's something that you already know about yourself, which is why I said know yourself, so you can say this really easily. It doesn't necessarily need to be a structure to it, right? The structure I gave you is just for composing a very basic one, right? Every single conversation is different. Every single person you talk to and the content of the conversation is different, right? The dynamics, the way it flows, right? So having a single structure, and if you have exactly what I had, right, and you're reading that into the mirror every single day, right, for like an hour straight, you're gonna get the stuck in your head. And when it comes time for you to be flexible and to adapt, you're not gonna know, right? So which is why I said you don't necessarily need a particular structure to follow like to the letter, right? Know yourself, know what you want, and know what you can offer, right? And then everything should flow by like, okay, this is who I am, this is why I'm talking to you, this is what I can offer, these are my skills. Let's get coffee sometime. Boom. Right? That's a very simple way of doing it, very basic way, right? But hopefully it gets you far enough to understand like, oh, this is what I need to change, this is what I need to adapt to. Right? Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Who else got questions? I know some chat heads came up. Oh, you were saying? Sorry.
Do you mind if I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I was wondering, I've heard that like usually before an interview, the interviewer would look into the interviewee's like profiles, yeah, like including social media and stuff. So, I mean, based on that, do you still sort of prepare information as if you're going to talk to them for the first time, like introducing yourself in the same sort of manner and everything?
Mm-hmm. Right. To answer your question, yes. That's the short one, right? Long answer is not all companies are going to look at your profile, right? But most companies will, right? You never know which one they do. They never say unless you have inside information, right? Companies like the government, the CIA, Facebook, Google, right? They're going to want to do a pretty good like background check, make sure you're not like crazy or whatever, right? So they're going to take a look, and sometimes startups will look at your company. Like a company of like 5 people, they want to know your personality if you're going to get along. There's only 5 people in the company, right?
Yeah.
So they're gonna check, right? But you don't know always, right? So which is why I said don't post that stuff because you never know who's looking at, right? So when you do end up at the interview, right? I'm not going to talk too much about interviews because there is another person who's here to talk about that, right? But during the interview, you should definitely talk to them like they've never seen you before, right? Always do that unless you like personally know the person, like they gave you a recommendation, this is your friend, right? Even then, right? It's still you still need to like present yourself professionally. Hi, my name is Wesley. Shake the hand, look in the eye, smile a little bit, right? Be a little cheeky with that. No, don't do that. Right? So definitely every single time you experience a new person, shake their hand and assume you never met them, right? But if you want more interview stuff, someone else is going to get into it.
Thank you.
Right. Any other questions? Anyone in the chat? Someone read to me, please.
There's a question actually. So, how do you speak formally without seeming stiff?
So, that's a very good question. Very good question, right? Formally is a very, very subject. It's up to there's a lot of ways to perceive it, right? How you speak formal, right? If you're in 1980s Hollywood, formal is apparently a British accent, right? You got your fancy old guys with your monocles and mustache, right? That's formal. But no, there's a lot of different ways to speak formally, and there's a lot of different ways you can't, right? But formal, right? The very basic, the very definition of it is you don't use slang, right? You speak very, you speak full sentences, you speak with proper grammar. You definitely don't do that. You don't say no. You talk slow. You formulate your words. You try to understand what you want to say roughly before you say the words, right? So you don't just blab out everything you have on the top of your head, right? You take it slow. You don't have. There's no rush, right? Unless there is a rush, so then talk a little bit faster, right? But generally, formal is just you're respectful of the person, right? You respect their space, you respect their time, you respect what they're saying, and you have a genuine conversation between the two of you, sharing points, sharing topics, right? You don't need a British accent, you don't need a monocle, right? All you got to do is talk slow, talk patient, right? Don't use slang, right? And just respect the person. It's all about respect. There's too much hate. Any other questions, Kedar? Or anyone has any questions in general? I'm going to assume no, right? But if you do have questions that pop up later on, right, that's completely fine. Just ask them at the end, right? But now I'm going to move on because I spent way too much time on this already. We'll move on to the next person.
Hi, everyone. My name is Monisha, and I actually graduated this year from RPI. I got a BS in chemical engineering, and I minored in STS, which stands for Science, Technology, and Society. It's a humanities major and minor that most people don't know about. So I got a job at WL Gore, which is a polymer company in Delaware, and I'm actually moving to Delaware in 2 days to start my job. So exciting time for me. And I've been involved with SASE since I was a sophomore. And yeah, I've been part of the executive board and I like staying involved. So I guess now I'll share out my own screen so that I can show my
I'll
presentation.
cancel mine right now. I cancel. Stop sharing. There we go.
All right. Let's see. Okay. So how to nail that interview. So first of all, you might be wondering why this is important. And as a freshman, you might be thinking that you're not going to get interviewed anytime soon. So I'm here to tell you that you're wrong. You can be interviewed. So first of all, like the main thing people think about is internships and full-time employment. Of course, you're going to get interviewed for those, but you can also get interviewed for club positions, leadership positions, committee roles. For example, I was interviewed for my committee role in SACE when I was a sophomore. Research positions, competition teams, even if you're trying to like find housemates or roommates and honor societies. So I can say that over the last 4 years, when I was at RPI, I've interviewed with over 15 companies. I've been polygraphed by the CIA. I worked for the Attorney General's office in New York. I worked at a chemical plant. Like I've had a lot of different interviews, and I can promise you that you will experience interviews. So first I'll start with the life cycle of an interview. So when you start like looking for positions or something, you have to sort of like showcase interest in a role. So that's something Wesley was talking about. You can do that through LinkedIn, you could do that at a career fair, or you could kind of do it old fashioned, like apply online, which you'll find out most companies will require you to do at some point. At some point, you'll receive a request for an interview. And you'll have to do some sort of phone calling, like someone might call you and you'll have to call them back, or you might get some emails where you'll have to confirm like the time, medium, and location. And by medium, I mean like a phone call, video call, much more common these days, but I've had them in the past too, or in person. And then you'll go through an interview process. And then after the interview, you usually ask about like, follow up, like when will I hear back from you? And then you always send a thank you note at the end of like at the same day as the interview. And then afterwards, you will usually receive some feedback, sometimes an offer or a rejection, or instead you might receive, let's say that you've passed on to the next stage and now they're going to request a second interview with more people. So many times your first interview is actually with someone from HR, and your second interview is with people you actually work with, and your third interview is with a department manager. It really varies. For smaller roles, like if you were applying for, I don't know, to like be part of a committee in SASE, for example, in that case, you may just interview with one student and then that's it. So it really depends. And then if you do get a rejection or an offer, either way, networking is something you should always do because now you have one more contact in your pocket that you can use in the future. So there are many types of interviews. The first type I was going to talk about is a screening interview. This is often via phone, where once you apply, somebody from human resources will call you and they will ask you basic questions to test your eligibility, like, oh, what year are you? Can you drive? Like if it's something that requires like you to be like able to be mobile. They might ask you like when you're available, like is it the summer or is it for the spring? They might ask you a few questions like, tell me about yourself. Like, this is a really common question, even in regular interviews, where you just have to kind of list off some things about you. Then there's traditional interviews, which are more based upon your resume. So this is where the interviewer is literally looking at your resume and going through everything one by one or asking questions really just based off your resume. They'll ask you questions about your experience and interests, so you better be prepared to answer anything that's on your resume. And then there's behavioral interviews that are becoming much more common. And this is where they will ask you questions about your behavior in a specific situation. So I'll get to that in a sec. Also, there's on-site interviews. So usually you don't have an on-site interview until you've had a phone screening and maybe one more phone or virtual or in-person interview at a different location. They'll want to bring you to the site. And in that place, you will usually they pay for your travel and lodging, and they ask you a lot of in-depth interview questions, and they focus a lot on personality and fit. So in the last year when I was applying to jobs, I flew to Texas 3 times for job interviews. I flew to Philadelphia. I drove to a place in Massachusetts. In all cases, like everything was paid for. I got a hotel, lodging, like they did everything for me. I got to keep all the flights. So it's actually pretty nice, but it takes a lot of time. And you have to remember, now they're not just assessing you on paper, they're assessing you as a person. They want to see how easy you are to communicate with if you mix with the other people that you're going to be working with. So it is definitely a different game. And then, as I said before, there's like different types of interviews: in person, phone, and video. In some cases, they may even ask you to do a presentation. I've had to do a 30-minute presentation to like 5 different people in one of my interviews, all via Microsoft Teams. So this could be like Skype, Teams, WebEx, all kinds of things. So, there's a variety, but like, the on-site one is definitely something you'll probably face later on in your career at RPI. So I just wanted to say that interviewing is an art. So what I mean is that when you interview, you need to remember that you are marketing yourself, but you also need to remember that you want the interviewers to think they really need you. You need to showcase a quality that makes you very desirable. You can't just say, oh, well, I can do XYZ, and that's what your qualification, like you're asking for, because there will be 10 other people who have those qualifications as well. In the end, they're not just looking at your qualifications, they're also looking at what other traits you bring. Additionally, you want to make the company feel special. You can't just talk about yourself. You need to talk about the things about a company or an organization that really, really like stand out to you. So for example, if you were interviewing to be part of a committee in SASE, you can't just say, well, I think it'll help me grow professionally. That's why I want to work at SASE. You have to also say, well, I also think that it'll be really great to help other people learn like professional things. Like I really want to help out in those kind of activities that you have. Because then we're like, oh, well, this person is not just thinking about themselves, they're also thinking about how they can add to the organization. So you want to make some, like whoever you're interviewing with feel special. Additionally, you want to showcase your strengths, like if you have something specific, or if it's just like, you can say you're flexible, you're adaptable, you are quick learning, things like that. And then also, I highly suggest taking notes. So after an interview, during an interview, you should take notes, because especially when you ask questions later on, because you don't know if there's going to be a second interview. And if there is, you want to remember the questions you were asked, the things you said in your first interview, or even if you don't have any future interviews, you want to remember what kind of questions you were asked, because that way you can prepare in the future. Finally, you want to accentuate your values. So companies have their own values, and they want to see if their values match your values. So that's important. And definitely want to keep an eye out for that. So my main advice to anyone looking who has an interview is to practice. What I mean is, like, you can't just like write down a couple answers and think you got it. Like, it's really different when someone actually asks you a question like on the fly. So make sure you practice with by answering questions in the mirror. Write down notes on how you want to respond to things. You can ask a friend to ask you questions. So a lot of my friends are job searching right now, and they message me and tell me, "Oh, I got an interview tomorrow. Can you help?" And I'll just call them up and I'll like ask them 10 different questions and see what their responses are. And it's really different when somebody asks you the question, because what you think you're going to say is usually not going to be what comes out of your mouth. So you definitely want to do that. So a couple things. I was really specific on this PowerPoint because if you want like this information later, then I can share it with you. But remember to speak clearly, be succinct and specific. You don't want to be too general, but at the same time, you don't want to pigeonhole yourself either. Don't say like, I want to do this, in exactly this department at your company, because if they don't have that role, they might deny you. Sound positive, don't ever be negative, and be really confident. But don't be too confident as well. Like, don't pretend, like, don't act as if you know everything, because they want someone who's willing to learn. You want to sound interested in the discussion when they're talking about the company, like, give like verbal cues that you're interested, show enthusiasm, seem personable, and definitely avoid interrupting the recruiter. There's nothing anybody hates more than being interrupted. So don't interrupt the recruiter, which is hard to do on a phone interview. You just have to be aware and listen for those cues. Also, body language is important. Arrive early, never arrive late. And if you do, like, you better have a good excuse. And then maintain eye contact and remember to be friendly. So I just wanted to do a quick slide on like dress, because I feel like even when I was a freshman, I wasn't really sure what to dress for different things. It depends on the position. If you're like applying for a club position or a professional society, and by honor, what I mean is like an honor society. So honor societies usually have some sort of induction process where you qualify based off your GPA. For those kind of things, it's like if you're getting interviewed for something, you really want to do business casual. You can also go completely professional, but it's okay if you're business casual. So that means like you don't need a suit jacket, slacks are okay, collared shirts or blouses are okay. You can wear like a dress or something that's professional looking, but you can't wear like jeans, things like that. That's not okay. So like this is also like if you go to a networking event for a company, like for example, Deloitte comes every year to our school and tries to holds like information sessions. You really want to like at least dress business casual. You don't want to show up in a t-shirt and shorts. So professional wear is conservative. And if you don't know how you should dress, then dress professional because it always looks better. This means a two-piece suit. So like a matching jacket with pants and a skirt. You want a button down, a collar, or a blouse. If you have a dress, you can put a blazer over it. This is potentially okay depending on how revealing the dress is. You got to make sure everything's ironed. You want to wear dark shoes, nothing too bright. If you're wearing heeled shoes, minimal heels. Avoid flashy jewelry, strong fragrances, anything that you think could make you stand out in a negative way, because you want to stand out, of course, but you don't want to fall into one of those tropes that oftentimes stereotypes that people have. Unfortunately, that's just like the way things are in the business world. You really have to kind of fit a little bit of a mold, unless it's a company that you already know a lot about and you know their working style and you know that they don't really care about this kind of stuff. It's always professional. It's always better if you're not sure. If you're touring a manufacturing facility, which may happen depending on what kind of engineering role you're looking at, you may be asked to wear closed-toed shoes, long sleeves, and long pants. And in that case, they will usually be really specific about what they require. And you still want to dress business casual, but you don't have to dress as much as some of the professional wear things that I've mentioned. Also, if you don't have professional clothes, RPI, I don't know what they're doing because of Corona, but like the Career Center does have a closet where people donate professional clothes and you can go there and literally take anything out of the closet. Like I have a friend who got an entire suit out of there because he couldn't afford one on his own and he wore that to all his interviews. So there's always other options. You can also borrow from other people. Like never be afraid to ask. Not everybody has a suit just lying around, and that's okay. So before the interview, you want to research the position. So what specific qualifications does the role require? Look through all of them, see which ones you immediately match and which ones you don't match. If you don't match something, like that's considered like, that would be one of your weaknesses. Like, let's just say they have a programming language on there that you don't know. Then you should do some research into that programming language, see like, is it similar to one that you do know? Is it different from one that you don't know? Like, try to figure out how you can deflect it so that your weaknesses can't be exploited by your interviewer. So this way you have an answer when they ask about, oh, like, are you familiar with this? You can be like, no, but I know MATLAB, and MATLAB is really similar to R or whatever. I'm not a programmer. In addition, see what relevant experiences you can discuss that match the or like the role. So like usually a role has like responsibilities and stuff written in there. You want to look at those responsibilities and think like, oh, have I done something similar? This is great. If they ask about it, I can really just talk about this one experience I had and try to highlight sought after qualities like teamwork, communication, versatility, things like that. So you really want to do that research beforehand so that you're not caught off guard during the interview. Also, you want to research an organization. So what is their main purpose? What do they do? Like, are there specific products they make? Like, I'll never forget, I got interviewed by Merck, which is a really big drug company, when I was a sophomore, and it was a phone interview, and they asked me, well, are there any products that we make that interest you? And I couldn't think of anything. I just knew they did cancer therapies, and they make a really like popular vaccine for it's like a medicine called Gardasil. I think it's a vaccine. I don't even remember. Well, that shows enough. I couldn't think of anything, and I didn't get a call back. Make sure you know what products or services are being sold, what their main service is, what their main purpose is. Find out what values they have. Look into their mission statement. See like in exciting new initiatives they have. You can go look at their press releases, even on like the front page of their website. They will talk about the things that they're really proud of. Finally, look up their interviewing style. Glassdoor usually has a lot of different information about positions and interview questions. People will post interview questions they've had for companies, and you can look at those and prepare for those as well. You can also ask upperclassmen and alumni who can usually help you out if they've also interviewed for a company. So, common questions to prepare for. So, you're always going to hear tell me about yourself, and you just have to be prepared to talk a little bit about like your qualities and then maybe mention some interesting facts. So, like, I'll always say, oh, like, I used to be a competitive archer. Something like interesting that they'll be like, make them like remember me, You can talk about your leadership positions and definitely mention any like relevant experience, but you don't have to go into too much detail because remember, they do have your resume and that is stuff you'll be talking about during the interview. Second, you might, this question is like always prepare for these next three questions. You're almost always going to get something similar to them. Why do you want to work at this company? So you have to talk about your interests, but remember to turn it back around on the company. You don't want to be like, oh, ever since I was a little girl, I loved chemistry and your company does stuff with chemistry. Like nothing like that. You want to talk about your interests, but turn it back around on the company, talk about the company's strengths. So I have an example here that I was thinking. So basically, like I'm going to be working at W.L. Gore. It's a polymer company, and I just kind of came up with like an example for what I would say, or I hope I said when I interviewed. So I would say something like, I know that the opportunities at your company are unparalleled to others because Gore is the premier company in the polymer and medical industry to work for. I'm so fascinated by how Gore is developing aortic heart valves with fluoropolymers and want to work for a company that shares my values for innovation to help the community. My research in developing a bioprocessing technique for lactose production really drew me to your company, and I feel that I could really grow and add to your mission. So if you listen to what I said, there's a couple of things. First of all, I highlighted a strength of the company. They're making aortic heart valves out of fluoropolymers. This shows I've done my research. It shows that I'm really interested in what they're doing. I'm not just looking for a job. Second of all, I related it back to my own experience. I talked about developing a bioprocessing technique for something totally different that's not related, but just to further develop my interest. And then finally, I make them feel good about themselves. I want to make them feel special. Like I'm saying, your company is going to give me opportunities I know no one else is. I really want to work for your company. So this is a good way to answer that kind of question. Another question you'll get pretty commonly in some form is, why do you want to work as, and then name of the role. So let's just say, again, with Gore, it's a process engineering product development role. So you want to express your future goals, right? And also relate them back to the company. So to answer that question, I might say something related to my experience. So I could say something like, as a process engineering intern at Sabic, which is a company that I worked for in the past, I realized how much I wanted to be part of preemptive product development before a product is manufactured. I want to work as a process development engineer at your company so that I can be more involved in material science to develop products like your sustainable, breathable Gore-Tex material. So Gore-Tex is a product they make, and I've brought that up to again show them that I'm interested in the company. I know a lot about it. I've done my research, and then I also related it to my previous experience in, at a past internship I did. So like most of you guys don't have internships right now, but you will. And like you, in the end, like let's just say, like even if this isn't like for an internship position, let's just say you're applying for a tutoring position. You could talk about how much you loved helping people in high school in math. I'm assuming math because this is a technical school. You can talk about something like that and say like how much you love learning and you think there's really interesting ways to learn and you want to help other students learn the way you did so they don't struggle like you did with XYZ bad high school teacher you had. Something to show that like, I really want to work in this role and I think it's great to help students. So you're kind of relating it back to like values. And then the last question is what makes you think you're a good fit for this role? So in this case, you want to be more specific about your experience and how it matches in like your strengths or the position matches your strengths. I don't really have an example for that one because I think this is a much more traditional question. You may also get questions based on your resume. So they may ask you specific questions about your experience. Like, let's just say you have a leadership position. Let's just say you were part of a marching band and you have like a leadership position. They might ask you what you did there. They might ask you about your role in a club that you have listed on your resume. You can expect questions about anything on your resume. You have to be prepared. This is why you don't want to stretch the truth too much on your resume, because if they ask you a question and you don't have the answer, it is uncomfortable for sure. The other thing is depth versus breadth. So some interviewers are all about depth. They will pick one experience you have and they will ask 30 questions about it. Like, let's just say we're talking about marching band. They might ask you what instrument you play. They might ask you how you got there. They might ask you how you felt leading other people. They might ask you what was the hardest part about how you led everybody. They might ask you, did you ever have conflict with like your teacher? Like they can ask you like all kinds of specific questions. So like it might be easy to talk about a club, but let's just say it's a company position or like like a old job you worked at and you only worked there for a couple weeks. They might ask you really specific questions and you have to be prepared to answer those. On the other side, they may go for like the breadth approach, which means they'll ask you similar questions about multiple things in your resume. This is a little easier because it helps you kind of highlight what you want to in each role. So behavioral questions. This is a big one because you may not be used to this at all. But most of the time you will experience it. And it's basically they give you a situation and they want to see what your answer is going to be. So like this is like this, they have this kind of thing where people in like interviewing where people say like your past behavior is the best predictor of your future behavior. So they want to hear about what you've done in the past in a certain situation. And then they're going to think about it and be like, is that what I would want my employee to do? So some questions they might ask is, tell me about a time you faced opposition in a team project from another team member. You faced a difficult problem in a team project and overcame it. Technical problems, you failed in a project or goal, you had a disagreement with a teammate or coworker, you were under pressure to meet a deadline, you had to compromise with a team member, or you were innovative. So you'll see a lot of these are focused on teamwork, and that's because they care a lot about teamwork. So in the best way to answer that is the STAR method: situation, task, action, result. This means you need to give context on the situation. So let's just say I was asked the first question. I might say, oh, well, I was working in, when I was working at my past internship, I was trying to install like this type of valve in the manufacturing plant. And one of the people who was on the project didn't like that type of valve. He wanted a different kind of valve. That's the situation. Then I have to explain the task and purpose or goal. So I'll be like, the problem is the type of valve he liked was not suitable for the process. Like people will have issues with it, and the purpose is to remove those issues. Then I'll talk about the action I took. So leadership, teamwork, any good thing you can think of that you want to highlight in yourself, this is the time to say it. So I'll say, like, my answer could be like, so I knew that I had to address his concerns, so I found a different kind of valve that fulfilled both our needs, and I presented it to him and made sure he was okay with it. And we were able to get the project funded and I was able to install it. So then the last part is your outcome. Like, you can't just say, oh, well, I talked to him and it worked out. You want to be like, we got the project funded. I was able to personally see it get installed. I was able to see the process run again and it worked smoothly. So again, this is an advanced example I'm giving you, but maybe an example that's maybe more similar, like more to your level, would be like, again, if we're talking about you applying for tutoring or something, you could say like, I had a student and one of my coworkers really wanted, or one of my friends really wanted to like tell them that like they should learn this, they should write an essay this way, but I thought they should write it that like a different way, and like talk about how you guys compromised and how you were able to achieve something that helped your student. So like bottom line, you really want to give examples. Like this is all about examples, and you really want to come out with a positive result. Some questions are a little harder. If they ask about a time you failed in a project or goal, you're gonna have to say like, oh, I accidentally did XYZ, and because of that, like we failed our presentation. But then you could be like, but it's okay because I learned a lot from it. And the next time I had a presentation, I had a plan. I made sure I was on top of everything. And ever since then, I've been really good about it. So like in the end, you just always want to end on a positive note. So one thing that I always say is you should try to control the interview. So decide what you want to highlight before the interview begins. What do you want them to know about you? Those are things you want to make sure that you address during the interview. Sometimes at the end of an interview, they'll be like, is there anything else you think I need to know? That's your time. If you haven't said it, this is when you should say it. You should practice stories. So like what I say is like, what I think of as stories are situations which can be used to answer a variety of different questions at once. So like I could talk about the tutoring thing where I'm working with someone else to help a student. I could also talk about that time I had to install a valve, or I could talk about working on the executive board in SASE and listening to Wesley talk way too much and trying to figure out how I can get airtime with him. So like there's a bunch of different things I can say, right? I just have to it takes time to remember these types of things. So like you just want to sit down and think of like different experiences you've had, like okay, group project experiences, okay, working with other people experiences, okay, leadership experiences. You just have to think through them, remember every detail, because it's hard to remember everything from the past when you're on the spot. That way, when you're asked common like behavioral questions, you can just kind of pick one that you think matches the most with the question they asked. So you're more prepared for a variety of questions that way. And make sure you study your past experiences on your resume, because what's on your resume is what they saw first. So if you can find something that matches, like is related to an experience or a position on your resume, then you should, exploit that, like use that so that then they have something to write, scribble on your resume next to that. So like I said, like come up with multiple scenarios and our answers, and then you can kind of pick and choose during the interview. Remember, you can ask questions about what an appropriate answer is if you're stuck. So like sometimes I will answer a question and then I'll be like, I don't know if I actually answered the question. So I'll just ask them like, did I answer the question? Like I could also come up with a different example if you want. And then you have to remember to say professional. So like, don't be too relaxed. Like never say something negative about another company or coworker. Like you can't be like, oh, like this group member was terrible. Like he always came late. He always did this. Like I hated working with him. You can't say that. You have to be more like, oh, this group member was busy, so he could never really, it was never very punctual, and it was hard working with him because of that. That's like the difference between professional versus non-professional, where while you're like seeing personable at the same time. So like I think like what you have to remember is at the end of the day, the interviewer is going to hear what you're saying about another company or person and be like, is that what they're going to say about my company if they come work at my company? You don't want them to ever have any bad taste in their mouth. That's how you stay professional. Like kind of gloss over issues without being like, don't reveal the whole truth. Again, like if you need to catch your thoughts, like somebody asks you a question and you don't know how to answer, you can ask for a minute to think about it. They'll give you time unless they're running out of time, but usually they're pretty nice about it because they know that it's hard. They've been in your position. You shouldn't be scared of them. So questions to ask the employer. If you're applying for an internship or a job, or if you are even like applying for like a club position or something, they will usually ask you at the end, do you have any questions for me? And the worst answer is saying no. You should have questions for them, because if you're interested, you will have questions. So these are some really good questions you can ask. Like I said, like we can share this afterwards. So I'll just read them off. You can ask about further learning opportunities. So some companies will have workshops like this one where they will help you become better at interviewing. You can ask about the work environment. Is your work going to be dynamic, or are you going to be working on the same thing? What traits do you believe are critical to success at your company? This is great because based on their answer, you can fine tune your answers in the future in a second interview. What opportunities are there for leadership? This shows that you like to be a leader. Even if you don't, you should still ask that because you want them to think that you like to be a leader. You can ask about work-life balance, meaning like hours, things like that. If it's like an hourly job, ask about cross-working, like cross-functional teams. Like, can I work with other departments? How performance is measured. Performance measurement is definitely more of like for full-time employment where like you're waiting to see how you can get promoted. So that's a different kind of question. Make sure you ask for contact information, such as emails, names, write it all down because you'll need it in the future, and ask about next steps because you don't want to wait 3 weeks and then be like, were they supposed to contact me yet? You want to know when they're going to contact you. So if they miss what deadline they said, then you can ask them. Never ask about salary or benefits in the first interview. So you'll see salary and benefits are actually something you discuss with human resources. So if HR is interviewing you, then maybe once you get an offer or something, you can ask more questions about it. Like for an internship, for instance, if you get an offer, you don't want to ask during the interview because the person interviewing you is not always the person who is in charge of salary or benefits. So wait until you have an offer and then ask more questions or try to change your offer and get a better offer. Bonus questions for the interviewer. You can also ask them about their time working at the company so that you can get some more insight, engage the interviewer so they talk a little more, and then by asking questions, you show your interest, right? A lot of times this is best when they're going to be they're like in a position that you would be working in, or if you'll be working directly with them, but you can ask how they began their career, if they have any advice, what they like most about working at their company. After the interview, you want to follow up. Do not forget this. This reminds them about you. So send an email to your interviewer thanking them, expressing your interest, saying like, it was really great hearing about your career, where you did this. I'm really interested. Let me know if you need any more information, something like that, basically in your email so that they know that you're still thinking about them. Connect with them on LinkedIn. That's also great because you can always contact them again in the future. Like as Wesley said, LinkedIn's really important. Make sure you take notes in case there's a follow-up, keep their contact information, and if they don't respond to you, follow up again after a week. So I'm running out of time, so I'm trying to be a little quicker. Quick tips. So like I said, be yourself, make sure you smile. Small talk is okay. A lot of times you can talk. Like nowadays, the discussion is always about coronavirus. Like, are you safe? Hope you're doing well. Be professional. Don't seem too serious though. They're looking for someone who's personable, who they can talk to because they want to see what your communication skills are. So if you have trouble doing that, being like very outgoing on the phone or like in person, it's okay. You just got to practice and you'll get used to it. Bring a notepad or Padfolio to take notes, extra copies of your resume so that you can have a copy in front of yourself too. Let the interviewers guide the interview. Don't ask too many questions in between. Let them ask questions. Be confident. Don't show off too much. Don't pigeonhole yourself. So like that's what I was saying before. Like don't say you want this exact position in this exact department doing this exact chemical process. Like you want to say like, I want to do a titration, like that's what I really want to do in my career, because then if they don't have that position, they'll be like, well, this person is not for me. And you can stretch the truth a little bit. So like what I'm saying by that is like if they ask you a question and you don't have a great answer, you can say something adjacent to it. Like if they ask about a group meeting or something, or like one of those like behavioral questions where they're like, when you were in a group, tell me about a time you were working with a group member and there was a conflict. Maybe there was a conflict and you and one of your group members addressed it together. Well, in this interview, you're trying to highlight yourself. So don't talk about your group member that helped. Just be like, I myself helped this person out. So you don't want to stretch the truth too much, but like you can, omit things so that you sound better. But don't ramble either, because rambling is like a whole different story. The more you talk, sometimes the more lost an interviewer gets, and you don't want that. So specifically for video and phone, which is more common these days, don't speak too close to the receiver. Try to laugh a lot on the phone because they can't see you, and you want them to know like who you are. Don't type stuff during an interview. Like let's just say they ask you a question, you don't know the answer. If you start typing, it's a video interview, like you're trying to look something up, they will be able to hear you and they will know what you're doing. So don't do that. Try to be natural. make sure you have something to take notes with. Bring a glass of water. One thing that I would say is if it's a video interview, check out the technology before you start. So like you can ask HR like, oh, like I had an interview on Microsoft Teams. I'd never used it before. I asked HR, and the day before they sent me like a test link, and I was able to set it up, see what it was like. And then you can use headphones or earbuds so that like to reduce audio feedback or echoing as well. So that's everything I have. Let me know if you have any questions, and you can also contact me at this email if you ever need tips or anything with interviews. You just want some advice. I also threw my LinkedIn thing in there in the chat a while back, so feel free to ask me anything, especially since I graduated, so I'm not really around with SASE as much, but I'm always willing to help. So yeah, I can't see questions, but if anyone has anything, let me know.
I think we're good on questions.
Okay, so then I guess in that case, then it would be Steven next.
Yep. I just need to introduce him, so let me share my screen. There we go. Here we go. All right, Steven, you see that?
Yep, got it. Okay.
All right, I'll turn it off once you're ready.
Okay. So hi everyone. My name is Steven. I'm a senior. My dual major is in computer science and information technology and web science. I have a minor in econ as well. I was a former executive board member of SASE. I was the public relations chair, and yeah. Okay. All right. So today I'll be going over resumes and cover letters and the do's, don'ts, what you should put, different sections of the resumes, and how you should go about creating your cover letter. So for the first one, we're going to talk about resumes. Resume is actually the core of the documents that you would use when you want, internship, an actual job, when you want to go into the industry. So resume should actually be, I would say it's an outline of your most important experiences that you have accumulated throughout. I would even say like before high school, if you had some hackathons, like impressive projects that you worked on. So in high school, if you did any of those, or maybe even before high school, and then of course throughout your college years, everything that you've accumulated should go onto the resume. Of course, the most important ones. And then, of course, the cover letters will be based like sort of a more in-depth description of the resumes, but there would be more directed towards the position. So first, let's talk about the sections of a resume. What a resume should normally have. So the first one is the introduction. So this is where you put your name in big bold letters at the top. If you want the recruiter to remember you, or whoever the hiring manager is, big bold letters. Make sure they remember you. They go through a lot of resumes. They look at a lot of people. So if your name stands out, that's a good thing. But big and bold, just to make sure they have that lasting impression. You add your phone number, personal email. So you could, in the beginning, you can add your RPI email, but later, because you're leaving RPI, you're graduating, it's better to leave a personal email so they have a permanent way to contact you. You add your LinkedIn. For a lot of the freshmen and the early sophomores, they add their address to the introduction, which appears on the top of the resumes. You could add that. That's up a question mark there. But then if you want space for other things in the future, they don't really need to know your address that much. It's not really that important. But in the beginning, you could have that. You can also put other links. If you're a programmer, coder, for your GitHub, for your personal websites, anything else that you want the recruiter, hiring manager to know about you. That's one of the most important sections of resume. The next one, right below it, usually most people have an objective or summary, and this section is more so a really, really brief overhead of what you want. So if you're a programmer or if you're an engineer, you say, I'm this XYZ, and I want to have an opportunity at, the company that, you're trying to get with a recruiter. So just brief, overarching, really simple description about yourself and what you want. So that's that. Next one is education. This section you want to put in school. Assuming everyone here goes to RPI, put RPI, degree you're pursuing, CS, IT, engineering. Put down your GPA and graduation date. And then the next one will be relevant coursework. So I put a question mark there because usually relevant coursework for some people, they put in a different section, like a complete different section by itself. But I usually put it right under education. It's the current and your past courses that are relevant to the position that you want. And you can jot those down, let the recruiters know, because they know, they've been in college too. They know what courses students take. They take like for CS, it'll be like data structures, or it would be, fundamentals of computer science, algorithms, things like that. So that's also good to put in your resume. For freshmen, you might all be wondering, you don't have a GPA yet. I haven't taken any classes. So I only have a high school GPA. So what do I do about that? So what I want to say is you want to include your high school information because you're a freshman. So you include your GPA. And then for your college GPA, just say, it's not applicable. You don't have one yet. But when you do, as soon as you can, like the moment you get an update on your GPA, change your resume. But for the most part, you should have your high school GPA for that. The next one is work experience and internships. This is probably the middle part and the body of your resume. This is one of the most important things that you want to have. Right now, you're all freshmen, so you don't have a lot of work experience, internships. Some of you might have, then you're on top of your game. That's really, really nice. Companies really want that. So what you want to put in this section, you can like break it into different sections, and each of these sections, within these sections, it should contain the company you worked at, the location you worked at, was it headquarters, was it their overseas site, wherever you worked, the time period that the internship experience took place, was like in the summer, maybe it was like a co-op where you did it like from January to like May or something. And then you would also want to have job and title position. So, were you a software engineer, mechanical engineer, electrical engineer, whatever that job title position was, and what department you worked at. And then, as Wesley stated before in his PowerPoint, what should you have for like the body of the work experience and the internships? So I would say you want to note down the most important responsibilities and achievements. So this means that you want to be specific, but you don't want to babble and go too in depth on a lot of things. Like you don't want to say, I did this for this. Like I created databases at the data architecture team. That's a little bit too broad and not really, because a lot of people would say the same thing. So that doesn't really make you stand out that much. But if you say things like, I made databases and that sped up the operational efficiency for the companies to access data by like 30 or 40%. Now you're working with numbers, and now people, recruiters want to see that. How did you make a change in the company, and how can this person bring the same thing to our company? Like how can they improve how we do things, and how can they help us with what we're working on? So that's that.
Steven, I got a question for you from the chat.
Oh, I'm listening.
Okay. Can you include your experience in a federal work study position in your resume besides co-ops and internships?
Could you repeat that one more time? I didn't catch the Fed. Can you say one more time?
Can you put work study on your resume besides your standard stuff? Can you put like work study?
So work study, I would say that depends on the situation. So what I mean by that is if the work study, so I'm gonna tell, this is gonna be a tip that I'm gonna bring, I'm gonna tell you guys later. But resume should be built towards the position that you want. So so for now, I'll just say if the work study is if it's like useful for the recruiters to see to get the position, yes. If not, you can include it if you are trying to make space. But normally, so I'm just gonna say yes if it's useful for the recruiter to see. Otherwise, you probably shouldn't include it. If it's like I've done work study too, and a lot of them weren't really that oriented towards what I wanted at certain companies, so I don't really include them. Was there anything else, or is that
No, you're all good. All good. Keep going.
okay? So let's move on to projects and research. So one thing to note is that work experience and internships is very different than projects and research. So don't combine the two. The work experience is actually like industry. You're going out into the work field. You get paid, not as much as a regular worker, but you still get paid. You know, it's in the industry. You know, you're working in a professional environment. So that's actually work experience. And in projects research, this could be with professors. This could be at school with like certain groups, communities, things like that. So definitely differentiate these two sections. So at RPI, there's a lot of different research opportunities, and they are known as URP, which is undergraduate research. This is usually paid by the professors, and then you get paid by, I think it's like hourly right now. But you do get paid. So this is like an opportunity, you know, if you know a professor really well, and he's doing research, and you ask him about, you know, I want to work with you on this research, you know, econ research, you know, programming research, AI research, whatever it is. That's definitely a resume booster, and you want to get a hold of that opportunity as soon as you can, because projects and research really help you build your resume. And though they're not as good as work experience internships, but I'm just going to put that in the air because, you know, there are some crazy projects and research out there that you could work on. So you can do URP. There's volunteer work and internships, the non-paid ones. You know, maybe you're helping a community with, like, you know, making websites, or you're doing engineering for certain communities. You can also put it down as project research. For coders, programmers, there is the Rensselaer Center for Open Source, which is ARCOS. This is a great opportunity to work on you know, research and projects. You know, there's a lot of different projects in this community. You know, they're working on like all different types of languages, and basically just a lot of things. And you can pick out which projects you want to work on, and, you know, join a team, and then of course learn, study, and build your academia. And then lastly, there's extensive class projects. I put a question mark here because it depends on the project. If it is, you would only put this when you don't have anything else to put and you're trying to make up for more experience. Because there are really like hard projects for a lot of certain, like, the classes that we take. You know, since I'm CS, all the classes that are usually higher level have group projects, which usually take a good chunk of the semester. So these projects are okay to put down only early on, and then when you can replace them with more relevant, as in, you know, professional, actual work experience, or an actual like URP project research with a professor, then you can replace these. But these are good just temporarily if you don't have anything else to put there. So for skills, the skill section, this is where you put down what you want the recruiter to know about you, all the skills that you have, whether it's coding languages, Python, C++, Java, you know, HTML, web development, databases, querying, anything. Language proficiencies, so if you know Chinese, Spanish, you know, any other language, you know, French, German, you can add these, and then state your proficiency in the writing, reading, and also, like, you know, communication in the work field, how well you're good at that. Next one is experience with different software. SolidWorks, MATLAB, CAD. You can also add these down. You can also add the Microsoft softwares, Microsoft Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Access. If they're helpful to get the position that you are pursuing, then definitely mention those softwares. And then lastly, management skills. Because I'm a CS, I'm more accustomed to the management skills that are associated with like software development lifecycle. So you can add those down too. If you're in engineering, I'm not sure how the engineering management goes. We can also add those, how to be a leader and the things you do to like carry out the team. So that's for the skills section. Now the next one is leadership and extracurriculars. These are leaderships in clubs and extracurriculars that are related to the position that you want. So, in the beginning, everyone's a member in these clubs that you join on campus. And you want to, at some point, move on to the leadership positions. So you can include them to your resume. These are really good resume builders, and they really help you boost your resume. For the recruiters, students that have leadership really stand out to them, and it really depends on what you do. And you should also state, like, if you're a president of this club, what did you do? How did you make the club better? And then make it so that it's more oriented towards the position that you want at the company, so that it stands out to them. But I put leadership and extracurriculars together because it's basically the transition between just being a member of the club to being a leader in that club. So in the beginning, it could be extracurriculars, and then later on, you can just change it to leadership for that. Or if you want to keep them separate, that's fine too. You can state the ones you're members in, and then you can also state the ones that you have leadership in. So this section is for certifications and awards. So some people have certifications, for special programs, special tests that they take. You can include these too. Any awards that you receive for, some projects or some breakthroughs, you can add those too. Normally people don't have these, but if you do add them. They're really huge resume boosters, and you can talk about, what you did for that project, the award that you got, or any of these certifications. And lastly is publications. So these are basically the documents produced from research. So if you work like in a huge research project, and the research project, discloses or publishes, a research document into the public, then you can add these into your resume as well. Again, usually people don't have these, but if you do take the extra step to work for these projects and got the opportunity, then you should add these, talk about what you did and how you contributed to that project, and then for the publication as well. So some miscellaneous things for like how to format the resume. Usually it's 10 to 12 font size. Usually don't go for 12 because the text is kind of big. I usually go for 10 because I try to fit as much information as I can. Stretch out the page margins as much as you can. A normal Word document is like 1 inch margin. You can stretch it down to like 0.5, or if you want to make it even smaller, you can do like 0.3. Just make sure that you can fit everything, and then stuff doesn't like break off the page. Third one, bold, italics, underline. You want to make sure that you emphasize certain things to the recruiters. You want them to see this specific information before they see, the lesser important things, or like that could be just the description of that. But I'll show everyone some example resumes later about how to use bold and italics and underline. The fourth point is make it simple. You don't want to make it super colorful, lots of complex objects, shapes, and colors. You just want to make it, some people like it black and white. Some people sometimes do blue. But make it simple. Don't add too much variation. That's actually not a good thing for a resume. And then lastly, make it individualistic. You want your own flavor inside your resume. That's why when you ask a lot of people, like just to see the resumes, everyone's resume is different. Everyone has their own way of expressing themselves, and they like specific patterns or structures for displaying information in different parts of the resume. So make it individualistic, make things stand out the way you want it to. Your resume is your own, and make it as the best as you can. So now I'm gonna move on to some freshman resumes that I have found. I actually I deleted mine, or just like I updated mine over my old ones. So right now I don't have my freshman resume anymore. But these are some of the freshman resumes that SASE has received in the past. So for this one, I blurred out the name just in courtesy of this person's resume. But as everyone can see, there is whoever did this resume, they have experience. This is good for freshmen. You should just say experience, mostly because you don't actually have actual internship experience, or you don't actually have like work experience professionally. So it's just saying experience, being a little bit vague, is sometimes good. And recruiters know this. They don't have that much high expectation for the freshmen because it's just their first time. They've just gotten into college, so it should be okay for that. That's experience, and then for this resume, they stated out, company name, job title right under it, and then to the right they have the dates and where they worked at, and then the body of what they did at that position. And if everyone can see, an important thing about when you're describing experiences is that you want to start with a verb, and this verb is the transition verb. And what you want, and there's like websites online that give you lists and lists of all these transition verbs that you can use to basically add oomph to your experiences. Just saying like I did this doesn't really have an oomph, but if you said like conducted, tested, I oversaw, responsible, developed, created, these words have a lot of power to them, and they emphasize, they help you emphasize like what you worked on for that company. And then second section, education. You can see for freshmen, this one, he or whoever wrote this resume said it was Rensselaer. Usually the GPA, if you don't have a GPA yet, it's not applicable because you don't have one yet. But if you do get it, update it and say what it is. Like if it's, wow, they have a 4.0. And then, of course, include your high school information as well. Because you're a freshman, you don't really have much to put on your resume. So include your high school GPA, anything you did in high school, AP classes that you've taken, like, computer science, maybe Calc A, B, B, C, physics or anything else. And then, of course, moving on to skills, you can talk about, Microsoft softwares, or if you worked on any engineering softwares in high school, you can add that too. And then awards, leaderships, anything that you've accumulated in high school, any awards, certifications, leadership for clubs, if you're the president of like the basketball team, or if you're the president of I don't know, Olympiad or something, you can add those too. And I blurred out the top area so everyone can't see what the person is, but so at the top, I blurred out the name, but what you should have at the top would be big bold letters, your name, your phone number, personal email, LinkedIn, any other personal websites that you want to put on, and so that's what should go up there for that. Let's move on to the next one. As you can see, completely different style from the previous one. So for this person, they had the name on the left side, and then they listed all the stuff on the right side for like the contact information, emails, and phone number. And then they have education right below it, experiences, much more extensively than the other one. The only thing that I would say for this is that be more specific for the time periods that you did certain, like you did for the project and their experiences. So just saying summer 2019 usually isn't specific enough. You want to say like, June 2019 to August 2019, or like May 2019 to August 2019. So be more specific about the time periods. Moving down to skills and courses. Talk about all the stuff that you did and all the abilities that you have and activities, leaderships, same thing. So now I will move on to the upperclassmen resumes. So these are the ones that, after getting experiences with a work, research, building both academia and professional experience. These are how the resume should look like in the future. So the first one I'm going to show is Wesley's. So Wesley's resume, as you can see, very expressive of himself. He has, his initials on the top. His initials are bigger than his actual name, which is fine too. And then Wesley, his name on top, his number, address, personal email, and Wesley has a website. So you can add that as well. If you have a GitHub or something, I think you add that for programmers. GitHub, I'm just going to say that the companies do look at your GitHub if they want to know more about you, see the projects that you're working on, and things like that. And then, as you can see, Wesley wrote an objective. This is like a small, brief description about your pursuits, what you want to do, what you're looking for, and basically you want the opportunity. As he said here, spearheading the culture that disrupts the status quo, to make way for the innovative, striving to see how far my potential can land in my dreams, looking for full-time opportunities. So yeah, that's what the objective summary should be. You can add things like, your software engineer or your web developer. And you can say, for freshmen, it would be you want internship experience. So instead of looking for full-time opportunities, you would say, I would like the summer 2021 internship opportunity at XYZ company or something like that. Education, of course, GPA. Okay, let's move on from that. So there's RPI, the degree that you're pursuing, and the graduation date. Wesley has certification. So it's a PMI, so he listed that. And then for experience, there's 2 internships that he did, with FWD Life Insurance in Hong Kong, and then the New York City Council. So he was an intern for that, for both of them. And then you can see on the left side, not the left side, the right side, he has time periods, very specific, May 2019 to August 2019, and then the exact location of where he worked at. And then, of course, the body of the experiences where he talked about what he did, what he accomplished. Like for the New York City Council, he says provided consulting services to over 50 plus local and non-local constituents. One thing about like when you talk about your research and experience, companies want to see numbers. They really do want to see numbers, whether it's percentages, whether it is just regular numbers, 50 plus, 100 plus, 1,000 plus, if it gets that high, or if you made like 20%, 30%, 50%, like make them more efficient, or increase sales by 50%. That's also amazing to put on. So yeah, that's how you want to exaggerate a little bit sometimes, but don't sound too overconfident. You want to present yourself in a way that you make them want you, but don't have a huge ego for these things. And then for leadership, of course, previous president of SASE, which is one of the most important leadership roles that he's had. So that's a big plus for companies too. You're a president of a society, community, or something like that. And for skills, you listed them out. You know, he works with Jira and other management softwares, proficiency in certain languages, fluent in some like Chinese, Mandarin, Spanish, and things like that. So for me, as you can see, mine's very different from Wesley's. Everyone has their own style, as I said. It's flavor for the resume. Everyone's a little bit different. People want to express themselves differently. So for me, you know, top part, my name and all that stuff. Introduction, like introducing myself as what my major is, and then all my contact information on the right side. There are templates online for these things, but if you want to build it yourself, which is usually a better thing to do, you can like find icons online and then slowly build, like section off each of the headers and then slowly build your way down. I have work experience with 2 companies for projects. I have 2 projects I worked on. I have a little bit more than what's listed here, but you want to list your most important ones, and so that you can get that position from the recruiter. So these are the 2 main ones for both my work experience and the projects. And then we have skills. I'm CSIT, so I list all my coding languages, web development languages, database systems, and others, you know, whatever else that I've worked on. And then education, of course, this will never change. It would always be your degree, GPA, and where you went to school. And then here I put relevant courses that I've taken for my CS degree and my IT degree. And then for leadership, I listed things out, like what I've done, like what specific group, department that I had these leadership positions at. Normally you would want to add what you did for these leadership positions, but I don't have enough room for that. I wanted to express myself more in like the work experience and the projects, so I didn't really add any of the leadership stuff. So yeah, this is mine. But yes. So moving on to cover letters. So what exactly is a cover letter? People usually say, you know, resumes, cover letters. They should be about the same, right? But resume is more of an outline, dotting out the specific sections of your career in academia, while cover letters are more oriented towards the company that you want to work at, because you want to direct it towards the hiring manager and make them feel that you are fit for that position and you'd be a great asset to their company. And, you know, because internship roles usually lead to full-time positions, you want to make it so that, you know, they see potential and not just that you're going to come here for a semester and leave. That no one's really going to want people like that. I mean, sometimes it does happen, but they want, you know, future potential at their company. So for cover letters, you've seen this logo before. Same thing. At the top, you would want an introduction of yourself, your name, phone number, email, LinkedIn, everything that you want the recruiter to see. And then for the body, what you want to include at the top is the date. Right after that, you want the dear section. So dear hiring manager, dear of XY company, or if you actually know a hiring manager or you know who you're talking to, when you send a cover letter, then you can include their name. That is usually the best case scenario, and that's like big brownie points for the cover letter. You would introduce yourself in the beginning. You know, talk about your degree. You know, my name's Steven, CSITWS, dual major. Talk about your skills. Talk about, you know, what you like, how you are as a person, just a little bit, so that they understand who they're looking at and who they're talking to. And then after that, you want to talk about job description and the qualifications. So when you want like an internship opportunity or a full-time position, usually companies would, you know, state the qualities that they want in that candidate, or they want, you know, specific abilities, you know, skill sets to have. So you could talk about that, and you can elaborate more on, you know, how you fit those qualities and qualifications. So that's what you want to do for the body of the cover letter. Definitely bring up that side of it. You want to sell yourself. Talk about your projects.
We got a question from the chat, real quick. Is a cover letter a paper version of an elevator pitch?
So I would say they have similarities, but usually elevator pitches aren't as expensive as a cover letter. Elevator pitches are just, as Leslie explained before, it's to strike up a conversation, show your enthusiasm to the recruiter, and show that you yourself want to take their opportunity for internship or full time, and basically make them want you to work at their company. While a cover letter does generically the same thing, but you talk more in depth. You talk more specifically about, you know, the projects, what you did at, you know, XYZ company, or what research you did. So it's relatively the same, but more specific. Because you can write, you know, you can think about what you want to write about for the cover letter. So you actually get the time to make it as good as you can. Does that answer the question? I hope. Okay. So moving on, you want to start yourself in your cover letter, talk about projects, line them up with the qualifications. So, you know, if they talk about, I want someone with C++, or I want someone with database experience, talk about the projects you had with coding, programming, making databases, and then, you know, talk about your achievements as well, what you did that made the company better. And then overall, for the cover letter, you want to be enthusiastic, but not overconfident. You want to show that, you know, you want to work there, you want to have this opportunity. You yourself are good in the ways that, you know, you put yourself out in this cover letter to be. But you don't want to sound like you have an ego, like, you know, I'm the best, no one's better than me. No, people don't want to see that. That's horrible character. You want to exaggerate some things, but you don't want to sound like you're over your head. So here, props to Wesley for finding this. It is a template for a lot of cover letters.
I didn't say that. I wrote it, Stephen. Correction. But continue.
Oh, you wrote it. Okay, my bad. So Wesley wrote this for everybody. I believe we'll send it out to anyone that needs one. But this is like a template for the generic, cover letter, and you can have like your name up at the very top, contact information right under it, and then there's a date, and then dear whoever, you know, talk about introduction, body, and then of course once you're done with everything, then you do a closing, and then you put your name on the bottom. So this is what a cover letter usually looks like, but don't always go by these templates. You want to like talk more about yourself, and, you know, talk more about the company as well. So you can mold it however you want. Make sure you yourself stand out, and you kind of make the company stand out too. So you want to move in depth in those two areas. So this is a template. So this is a cover letter that I wrote for Intel, I believe. So I have mine, name on the top, the date, and then the logos. I just love icons and logos because they're kind of cool. So I always put them at the top. And then of course I wrote Dear Sir, Madam here, but usually you want to say hiring manager, or for like XYZ company, or if you know the name, then put the name down, you know, maybe like Susan Wells or something. And then of course I introduce myself, talk about, you know, my academia, college career, and then I talk about like qualifications for the job description. I match things up, talking about like programming language proficiency, talking about like specific projects, maybe like management leadership that they are looking for. You can also talk about like how you became, or you were the project manager for a certain project that would match up exactly with what they want. So you want to do that, and then of course you want to have a closing statement, or I do. You want to, everyone can see the last paragraph right before I close. I say, I want to thank them for reading the cover letter, because the hiring managers are very busy people. You go through a lot of resumes, a lot of cover letters. You want to thank them for taking the time to read your resume, cover letter, and thank them for the consideration. Hopefully that you get contacted again, follow up or anything, and then you close. So usually that's how it goes. The final tips and tricks for cover letters going to be clear, concise. As Wesley and Monisha have said before, you don't want to, keep talking, adding too much cotton fluff to whatever you want and making things longer. That's not really the case. The recruiters know what, like, they're experts at communication, so they know when you're trying to fluff things up. So don't be a fluffer. Be clear, concise, get straight to the point. Important bits. You want to be truthful, so don't lie about like what you never did, or if you didn't do something, don't say it. They'll find out the moment they interview you, and you don't know what you're talking about. So you just shot yourself in the foot, and then you probably wouldn't get they probably wouldn't talk to you afterwards, like after that interview. It's okay to exaggerate a little. As Monisha said before, when you like talk about like, let's say for management, or if you, or there was an issue with like teammates, where you only talk about yourself. That's one way to exaggerate yourself a little bit. Talk more about yourself and less of others. Or you can talk like, make yourself like, either this a little bit better, or just play with the wording a little bit, just to make things stand out more. And then finally, build resumes and cover letters specifically for the position that you want. Like if you want to apply for, let's say, Google, build a resume specific for Google. If you want to go to Facebook, build one specific for Facebook. So you want to make them specific for the position, and more so than that, let's say you were a dual major like me, so you can apply technically to two fields. One is like software engineering, the other one's like web development and database data architecture. If you're applying for a CS position like software engineering, don't put web development stuff. If you have more important software engineering or programming experiences, that you have. Otherwise, you could put it on, but just make it so that it's more specific for the position, and you don't want to include like all the stuff that's not that important. But if you have nothing else to put, then of course you would put it on. I think that's it. I don't have a questions page like Monisha did. But yeah, I am done.
Okay. So thank you everyone for staying with us. I shared the wrong screen. God dang it. Stop sharing. Sorry, my bad. So yeah, thank you everyone for staying with us. It's been absolutely wonderful. So what to expect next from us, right? Thank you guys for showing up. It's really great. If you guys are interested to learning about what we have to say, what we have to do, and just us as a whole, we have some events that will be coming up pretty soon. The first one is our weekly podcast every Saturday at 5 p.m. on WebEx. You will find us talking for about an hour-ish, about relevant topics, that everyone's interested in and no one really talks about, right? These are also recorded and live, so if you do not catch us live, you can be sure to find us on our YouTube channel, right? Next up is our mentor and mentee mixer. If you are a mentor of our program or a mentee of our program, we are going to be having our mixer soon. If you heard the advice today and think like, yeah, I should get a leadership position, we will be looking for people to join us and join our team. We have positions, the 2 freshman representatives, as well as committee roles that will be coming up soon. So if you are interested, please stay tuned. As well as in October, we will be having our national conference, right? So you heard everything, and you finally want to test out your skills, make sure you pull up there. Next is our SASE Pro. This is our national organization. They will be having a webinar talking about the 3 keys to unlock the bamboo barrier, right? If you don't know what that is, well, that's the reason for you to come and find out. It's Tuesday, September 15th at 4 p.m. at that link down there. And thank you, Sean, for asking that, because I am just about to move on to the next slide, which is this right here, right? You take your phone and scan that QR code. It will take you to a Google form where you can sign up for our newsletters and emails, right? And if you do want to receive a copy of these slides, sign up on our newsletter, and we will be sending out these slides as soon as possible, right? If you we also have a few other things. You can send us an email at that email address, or you can find us on Instagram and Facebook. If you have any questions or any concerns you might have, you can reach us out there. But do make sure you scan that QR code and you sign up for our newsletter, and so you can receive all our wonderful information. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for coming today. It's been an absolute pleasure sharing this information with you guys. We can't wait to continue to have more wonderful, wonderful online events with you guys. So thank you guys for coming, and we hope to see you all very soon. Thank you.